Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys for coming here for the Modular Monolithic Infra session with a bunch of our friends over here. So why don't we kick off with some introductions? I'll start it off. I'm Niro. I'm the CEO founder of MCA Multichain Advisors, and I'll have the rest of the folks jump in there.
My name is Emir. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Union. Zero knowledge interoperability protocol for general message passing and asset transfers. And we're monolithic, modular, agnostic. We try to connect with all the execution environments.
Hi, my name is Aniket. I'm the Chief Research Officer for Supra. Supra is a L1 that is vertically integrated. I think I'll put ourselves more on the modular style, where we see we observe make interesting observation by differentiating the tasks. We can solve those problems very interestingly and efficiently, and Supra layer is built upon that.
Okay, hello, hi. So I'm Mathieu. I'm the founder at Linera. Linera is a layer one that is optimized for real-time performance and interoperability at very large scale based on microchains.
I'm Brian. I'm a DevRel engineer from Aptos Labs. We're a general purpose layer one built off the Move programming language.
Awesome. Thank you guys for the intros. We got a all-star packed panelist lineup over here today. So for the first question, with regards to general monolithic blockchain designs, what would you say are some of the key advantages that the hybrid modular approach provides, and how would you say that that's useful for like products building on that ecosystem?
Sure. It depends on the use cases, right? If you're a very niche game that's like real-time strategy game, for instance, or microtransaction kind of an app, obviously like modular stack is better for you. But there's also like different use cases for the monolithic, and there's hybrid solutions like I guess like Linera that kind of fall in between. I think for from an interoperability standpoint, for modular to work, there has to be like the different layers within the modular stack should also like seamlessly connect with interop. One of the biggest bottlenecks of modular right now is the ability to have the atomic composability almost that monolithic chains have, right? Seamless composability between different rollups in the same ecosystem. If we can overcome that, I think the value proposition of modular is going to be much higher. I don't think the issue is with scalability, because Celestia and Avail, they're making a lot of progress on the D8 throughput. But the bigger question, I think, is going to be on the interop side. How do we connect those different rollups?
Maybe I'll start. So indeed, very nice point. I'll start from the first point that is made. We can have specialized monolithic chain for individual ops. Along with composability, the challenge is also with the shared security, which can be challenging there, because we are not able to obtain the crypto economic security or even the security from more traditional sense if we have just separate monolithic chain, which can be possible in modular sys. But indeed, at the same time, composability can become challenges, and that's when indeed what we observe at Supra is that we can achieve the best of the both world by finding for this particular task, do I need to really completely blockchain, or I can solve this problem just by having a single layer of consensus, and rest of the things that can happen in efficient manner. And we found that for many tasks that we need, being that Oracle, being that multi-party computation, or being that randomness services and other things, we could do that. And we found that to be a very nice thing to do. And that's reason I'll also put ourselves more in hybrid space, that we want to use the same set of nodes so that we have similar ideas in monolithic space. But at the same time, we are able to overcome the disadvantages of lacking shared security or inefficiencies or lack of performance that can happen in monolithic chains.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, first depends what you call modular, but there are different definitions out there. Like a term that was created by Celestia, so they have obviously a very narrow definition that includes them in the stack, or sequencer at least. But now if you take a broader definition where like we think that there should be several several pieces of infrastructure working together, and each of them being specialized, maybe some of them being generic, used for settlement. Or I personally like this vision. I think that works. Now, I think at the same time also, I think that lots of infrastructure that has been built with the same programming model that is essentially prioritizing composability. Because that's where we come from. I mean, everything started with the single chain, with the Bitcoin chain, and then there was Ethereum was also a single chain of blocks where everything is infinitely compressible, and we see that's very convenient for DeFi. You can do the flash loans is this example that is kind of mind blowing when you come from traditional finance, but that nobody uses at the same time. So we for DeFi, I think all those monolithic chains are like really interesting. What we're building at Linera is something very different. We're like saying, no, look, actually, the world is not monolithic. As soon as you start interoperating with external systems, you're not going to have atomic composability anyway. So we're going to explore something completely new, where we actually don't have atomic composability across our users. And that makes us a very unique proposition where everything is, where applications can really scale horizontally. So we structure our block space completely differently with potentially millions of parallel small chains in our system, and we encourage people to build applications that take advantage of this to scale out. And what's interesting is that in the course of doing that, we discovered that we were really helping with interoperability with other systems, so we can actually query other systems directly from Linera applications. And then we can also create those very fast certificates that can be exported to other systems. So that makes us a very good data validation layer, for instance. So we're specialized blockchain. So I guess I believe in modularity, I suppose.
Yeah. So my take on this is a bit different. I think you should, if you're just starting out and building an application, you always should go down the monolith route. I think it makes things simpler in terms of developer experience. So analogy I like to make is like in Web 2, you can use a whole bunch of different services, right? You can use whatever database layer you want to use. You can use like a caching layer. You can provision your own hardware. But now when you roll things on your own, you're now responsible for like monitoring all these systems. But like in a monolithic system, like a blockchain like Aptos, where we make sure the entire stack works correctly, it makes it a lot easier for developers to just build applications and not have to worry about anything else. And I think like maybe in particular use cases, like what Amir said, if you don't want to share block space, or if a majority of the activity on your chain is like meme coins and it's congesting the chain, then maybe in that case, like a modular approach makes more sense. But I think just starting off, I would try to recommend users to start on a monolith, and then depending on where their application scales, maybe consider modular in the future.
I agree with that. Actually, it is a good starting point. One size fits all in most cases until it doesn't. There might be use cases as because if you look at Web 2, right? If you're a developer building a web app, you go to AWS, right? You choose your execution environment, which is basically your VM there. Your settlement is your database, and your storage is your DA. Network is your messaging and interop. Like it comes in different puzzle pieces, right? As a developer, you actually like go through this Chinese menu of options and select what fits for your use case. But the difference is all of that is run by a single entity, and it is a very smooth developer experience. With the Web3 modular infra, you don't get that. Every single piece from interop to like sequencers is run by different projects, so the developer experience is a little bit blocked there. Once I think it's more unified, and I think we're going to see a lot of M&A activity, hopefully, in the next 2-3 years, because a lot of projects are tweaking something different. I think there could be like more collaboration and more merging of efforts. That whole experience is going to feel more like monolithic, I think.
So I agree that indeed the developers and users experience the most important, and if they have a one single interface to work on, that's much better. And indeed, as I think you mentioned, the meaning of word modular itself is evolving. And indeed, if there are the star network or subnets kind of infrastructure, can make harder for users because they have to procure nodes and build all these things. So that can indeed happen. But it is possible to have at least in the chain, like what we observe in Supra, is that we do not want the users to have procure new nodes or new infrastructure, but we still want to have modularity characters so that we are prepared for the future. And there, at least what we find is the problem that Brian mentioned, because maybe having good user interfaces. That can we have good user interfaces so that they don't need to procure new machines, new infrastructure, and make it build, but still have the characteristics so that we can prepare for the future, where when we can have more ops and where you want to have specialized infrastructure for meme coin. Hopefully we'll have better applications in the future, but let's take meme coin for now. And so it could be possible to best of the both world, but I agree with you that indeed the first state from developer perspective, it has to be easy. Yeah.
I just wanted to just throw out there, like maybe what we call monolithic are actually monolithic infrastructure actually specialize in DeFi and not as generic. Just throwing out there.
So it seems this
Just
is
for the panel, for the entertainment value.
I mean, seems like a hot take, across the board. But why don't we jump on to the next question in the medium time? So obviously, for blockchains, speed, throughput, latency are key core measures of success. But every different blockchain ecosystem seems to have their own different metrics, key metrics that they're focusing on. In you guys' opinion, do you think we should be or folks should be focusing on high TPS, sub-second finality, or seamless composability, and how does that impact the general infrastructure build of the blockchain?
Yeah, I can take this. I think Aptos is a bit underrated. I think they do both things, right? They do ultra high TPS and sub-second latency. And so how did we do it, right? I think when Aptos first started, they came out of Facebook, the original like Libra DM chain, and they were meant to do payments for all like 5 billion users on or all the users on Facebook. And so they were able to take some of the research from the research team. They created like the execution layer, the block STM, which is also used across different chains like Monet, say Starknet. And so they kind of achieved what people wanted, which was like ultra high TPS, fast fidelity, and then also being like globally decentralized. So I think ultimately there should not be any trade-offs, right? It should be super fast and super secure. And so I don't know what other people have takes on this, but that's what I think.
Yeah, feel to jump in there.
Okay, yeah, okay. So indeed, I'll put it this way. I agree with Rand that I'll put all of us in maybe the third generation of blockchain. So first generation is more like Bitcoin. Second, maybe Ethereum and some players in that time. And we have to give sub-second latency. It's like everybody here will agree that that's the thing that has to be, and we have to go for high TPS. And thankfully, there are nice innovations that have happened in the throughout ecosystem. Indeed, as I mentioned, Aptos and everywhere, even in Supra, we have built upon several other protocols where we see that we can achieve those characteristics. So indeed, high throughput, where we are going for 100 kTPS, 500 kTPS is indeed achievable by standard technique, as well as with interesting optimizations that we can see. And low latency is also something which looks achievable, sub-second level for sure. So the question then comes to that composability across chain, and that remains something to be seen. The one key challenge when you say composability, I'm going to take like composability across chain, right? We know that there is no one chain fits all. I guess at least on this panel, people will agree. And in that case, we want composability. And there we indeed want to make sure that the states we are generating can be easily verifiable on other chain. And that one aspect, indeed, I think chain needs to work on. In Supra, we see that we can have really efficient distributed key generation protocol, and we'll threshold sign our state so that it can be easily verified on any other chains. And things like that can work, and through that composability can be indeed improved. But still, I'll say that more efforts are required towards making sure that we can have apps that can compose across different chains.
I agree with you, and I'll just like add to say that look, throughput was kind of the challenge of the previous cycle. Now there's a lot of chains that actually support high TPS. The main question is the cross-chain composability when it comes to, hey, I want to borrow from this other chain but land on the other, like this other chain. There has to be like seamless sub-second message passing between those different ecosystems and execution environments. And I think back to your question, more than so the TPS, consensus verification based trustless interoperability between different rollups and app chains and microchains is kind of what we should be thinking about next.
Okay, so first I want to say, so I was a researcher at Facebook working on blockchain protocol. So you're welcome, and congrats on the amazing tech. So I was gonna play again with the words. So what we call latency right now, I think so far in this panel has been block finality. So it's the time it takes when, as a user, you want to input a transaction to the system. So the time it takes for the system to tell you your transaction is in. Okay, it's gonna happen. Congratulations. So that's what people call latency more often than not. But it's actually not the best definition from a user point of view. What you want to know is the time it takes for not only your thing to be confirmed, but for it to be executed, and then for it to be visible to the other users. And there's a notion here that is completely ignored by most infrastructure, which is the data latency. So the time it takes for the other users to see the result of your action. That is a hard problem. It's multiple seconds, especially for a single chain with very high TPS, which is usually achieved using very large blocks. So that puts a lot of pressure on the execution layer and also on the indexing layer. So all those data providers that actually are the ones serving the data, they are under a lot of pressure, and data latency is usually not that good. So I'm just saying out there, data latency is important, and it turns out that at Linera, to get a good data latency, we had to change the programming model entirely. This is one of the benefits of microchains, that we actually use very, very tiny blocks that are much easier to replicate everywhere, creating those opportunities for real-time interactions. That also happen to be not using data providers, so not trusting third-party entities, and so being trustless. But you have to work for it. We had to create a new programming model, giving away composability, so changing the way we architect the applications. But yeah, we get the benefits, and it's super interesting.
Yeah, I just comment. You're mostly referring to like end-to-end latency, right?
Yeah.
I think at Aptos we actually do sub-second end-to-end latency as well. I think our finality is close to like 200 milliseconds. So end-to-end is just a little bit more for us. And I also want to say for like the cross-chain composability aspect, I think we are pretty close. Like I think Layer 0 and Wormhole do a decent job. The thing is like they are a bit slow across different chains. They take 30 minutes. But I do like the idea of CCTP. They're pretty fast on the fast finality chains. And I think maybe it's not like true composability, but it's a way to move like economic value into another chain. And then maybe we reach a state where we start abstracting this idea of like all these multiple chains. And for a typical like Web2 users, behind the hood, there's some sort of transfer protocol that allow you to interact with like all the infrastructure that's available.
Interesting. Anyone have anything to add on to?
Yeah, I want to actually agree with Brian. I think because we follow, we are aware of the Aptos infrastructure, as well as we also building the similar thing. So unless we go for really high TPS where we are pushing transaction at 500k TPS or 1000k TPS, we can achieve sub-second end-to-end in this environment. I'll not because I mean, if we just do calculation, it terms to work out. And in that sense, they're similar to microchain. Right? I mean, let's say looking at the current, let's say we consider current rate of 1,000 or 10,000 transaction per second level, that's manageable. Going beyond that, then there'll be delays because data availability or transferring data takes time, right? But until that point, then we can be comparable.
Usually systems that are high TPS, they're going to have to separate execution from the consensus. And the block finality is only about consensus. And then you got the execution layer kicking in. So maybe there's also some parallelization that can happen. I know, but that's a challenge that
Yeah,
That we're talking
execution
about.
is cheaper. That's thankfully a good thing, right? I mean, in most environment, the data dissemination easily take. I mean, water calculation be easy is a 1,000 is maybe 100 millisecond problem. Execution is 10 millisecond problem. It's 10 times cheaper than data transferability, at least for the transactions that we typically see in blockchain space. Yeah. We are not doing private transaction, right? I know you have private transaction background, but yeah.
I should also add that there's obviously a lot of competition in Interop, and there's a lot of solutions out there. For us to be able to serve the next 1,000 chains, next 1,000 rollups and app chains, we need to have permissionless Interop, and that only comes with having the right toolkits and the libraries for developers to, with the click of a button, have access, without having to reach out to layer zeros or wormholes or unions BD team. They're like spinning up themselves. I think that's also one of the DevX barriers that we should overcome if we want its own composability between different rollups.
Awesome. Okay, cool. If there's nothing else on this segment, we can probably jump on to the next one. Given the time that's remaining, I think we should just jump straight to the hot takes, because I believe each one of you guys has a hot take that they want to share, and this panel is clearly very spicy. So why don't we start off over there with Brian Wong on the back over there.
I'll go first. I think we dive really deep in the weeds on like TPS and finality and consensus and execution layers, and thinking on a really long time frame. I think in maybe 3 to 5 years, performance will just be table stakes. Like, it'll be expected that all these layer ones are very highly performant, and so really, where will the real innovation come from? I think it really comes down to 3 things. So one being developer experience, like how easy is it to write applications on your chain? Is there a lot of tooling involved? Like, is it easy just to build apps? Second is like community. Not only do the builders, but do the users feel like they're a part of something? I think some chains have done this really well, like Solana. A lot of the users are happy to trade meme coins. They're happy to be a part of something. They're like, if I lose my entire net worth buying dog with hat, like, I don't care. At least I get to say I did that, right? And then 3 is the applications. Like, are there interesting applications being built on the layer 1? Is there a lot of activity, or is there a lot of volume on your perp decks? So if so in 3-5 years, I think the discussion will be less about like how, like, TPS, finality, all these things. It'll just be like developer experience, community, and applications.
I guess my one rebuttal to that is, would you say there's a community to that, or would you say it's more like a hyper gambling addiction?
I think definitely like an ADHD hyper gambling addiction on certain chains. So that is typically the community on Solana, I'd say, for now, and that may change in the future.
Makes sense. Any rebuttals to that hot take, or?
So I would to add something interesting anecdote, which is quite relevant there. So for many of the new technology that emerge, their early applications may not be something that we'll be proud of today, including internet, including paper technology. So similarly, indeed, as you say, maybe these are the applications which are currently proliferating, but hopefully we and the people in this room can come up with applications which indeed go beyond and think of application that we'll be really proud of.
No, I hope so. Mathieu, do you want to jump to your hot take?
So I think we're all looking for like what is going to happen with what kind of applications are going to become mainstream, and so are they going to be like just for professionals doing trading, or or are we going to go for like, really, are we going to see social networks, or like large scale systems with devices that are connected to chains and AI agents? So that, of course, I'm more for that scenario. And I think in that vision, so scalability, it's not going to be just about TPS. It's going to be about user experience. It's two faces of the same coin. When you and in particular the infrastructure, their role is to provide with the guaranteed quality of service to the users. Guaranteed quality of service, that's something that we experience when we use any Web2 system. we know they are reliable, even if there's a lot of users at the same time using the same social network or anything. It still works just the same for us. And behind the door, in the data centers, for that to happen, it means that they have used horizontally scalable infrastructure without bottlenecks. They know how to handle peak hours. They know that they can provision more machines to absorb all the activity from the users. And so, yeah, so for me, that's the vision. This is what we're working on at Linera.
Not so hot take is there's obviously there's going to be a lot of hyperliquids coming out, new app chains with specific needs. Decentralized social might be a thing, right? Privacy-based payment systems, whether they're built on monolithic chains or modular chains, there's going to be more super apps like that. And we need trustless connection in between them. We need to remove the trust assumption, no matter where that application lives, whether if it's a smart contract or apps on its own. We need to remove the trust assumption when it comes to interoperability. We can't rely on multi-sigs. We can't rely on third-party oracles. We can't rely on NPCs. It has to be trustless verification, and that's what we should focus on. Otherwise, we're going to make the news again on rec.com.
Okay, so I mean, all of them are very nice points. So I'll just add more, which is more from the infrastructure side. So one thing which I'm quite excited that we're going to see in the modular infrastructure is the multi-VM approaches. Like, can we manage multiple VMs simultaneously running, because we are working in such high TPS environments and developers have their own choices. And in that respect, multi-VM is a very interesting aspect that emerging. How to deal with that? It's not an easy problem, especially if we want to have shared liquidity that goes across multi-VM. So that's one thing which I'm quite excited from the infrastructure perspective. And another thing I'll add, that the developers may want their own space while still continue that. Can we provide them that you will have this much execution space in your in this block, or this much storage that they can guarantee in your system or unit DA? And as more and more developers get into this space, they may require such guarantees for their apps, hopefully beyond meme coin. But that can be very interesting. And I think still efforts are required from research and engineering, and that I'm quite excited about. And that way also I keep my job, right?
Love it, love it. Well, we do have some extra time here, so I might come in with a few hot takes of my own. So if I guess if technology is a requirement, or if technology infrastructure is a requirement, what is the actual competitive advantage and differentiator between the different blockchains?
I think I answered that. Right. I think if technology becomes like everyone has equal performance, then it really will come down to the developer experience. Like how easy it is to write applications, and then the community, and then also the applications themselves. And so actually, Amir, mentioned a good point earlier about composability. I think just looking forward in the future too. It's right now, I think we're all crypto natives in this room, and it's very easy to understand. It's very easy to do things on chain. But to describe to my friends, like, well, how do you start trading on Hyperliquid? It may not be like that intuitive, right? It's like you have to buy ETH, and then you have to go to Arbitrum. There's a lot of steps involved, and to us, it's very simple. But I believe in the future, today, like, we have 50 million users on chain, and there's 5 billion internet users. So whatever like bridges that gap to that 100x improvement in terms of a user experience, I think will be huge for all this infrastructure that we created. Like, Web2 users shouldn't know that they're on chain. Like, shouldn't have to know, right? There shouldn't be this concept of I mean, today we have wallet extensions, right? But maybe in the future it's something like Aptos Connect, where you just like log in with your Google account, and now you're on chain, right? So I think that's kind of where we're headed.
So I just wanted to, here I just reminded like something that happened to me. So I'm a former backend engineer at Facebook, and before even doing blockchain, and the worst developer experience I ever had was one time I created a system. I created like a tool, and I was using my favorite language, and at some point it stopped working, and I had to rewrite it in C++. so that it's more performant and more scalable. And for me, that was the worst experience. So it's not always, it's a complex story, developer experience. You could have a framework that is very easy to use at first, very, you feel like you're like very productive, but then there's a limitation and you have to rewrite everything. And developers hate that.
Right.
And
Like
the managers too.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Like I was
I'm trolling you a little bit.
No, prior to this, I was a software engineer. I started at Twitter and then at Facebook. Like I think as you become more experienced, you just want your systems to be extremely simple. Like if you start adding a ton of complexity to your system, you're now responsible for the monitoring, right? Now you have to make sure like your system doesn't go down, right? You don't want to get paged at night. Like if you can write like all your applications in Excel, right? Like this is like taking it to the extreme. Like you would just do it because it's just extremely simple. All right. So that's kind of how I see things.
Cool. Anything else anyone want to add in here? Any other thoughts on that?
No, I think we've covered it. I would just say hopefully in the next bull run, when the retail comes, they don't see the same UI when it comes to like, bridging, because we need to abstract away all these like complexity with which network you're on and vice versa. So hopefully we'll make enough progress there so that the Web3 feels more of a unified experience.
Perfect. Appreciate it all. Thank you for the great panel here. And folks, we'll see you in a round of applause.